Pido permiso, señores, para presentar a un amigo.
This is Chalino Sanchez, a celebrity who messed with the bad gangs and allegedly got killed for it. Celebrities may be revered by fans all over the world, but when they mess with the bad boys, it could cost them too much, even their lives.
Yeah, I'm okay now. Just when I hear some high voice, my ears get hurt.
From Steven Seagal, who got involved with cartel members, to Chalino Sanchez, who got a death note 12 hours before he was killed, these are times celebrities messed with the bad gangs. Let's start with Chalino Sanchez. Known for his narco corridos, what you may know as drug ballads in English, Chalino was a very popular singer. His music is similar to folk music, except the lyrics tell true tales of drug traffickers, the cartel, and the lawlessness of Mexico. Chalino changed everything about music in Mexico, from sounds to lyrics to the fashion style. He'd wear his cowboy hat and have a gun tucked into his belt, carrying a gravitas with him. This made his friends and fans call him a tough guy, but Chalino was not always that tough guy that got into trouble. You see, Chalino's life began in a small village in Sinaloa, Mexico. He had 7 brothers and 1 sister. His life was smooth sailing until his only sister was kidnapped and molested when she was just 11 years old. As if that was not enough, Chalino's sister was sent home naked. Chalino was very furious, and that day he swore to avenge his sister's molestation. He did his little investigation and found out that a local man named El Chapo Perez was one of the men responsible. 4 years after the incident, Chalino finally got his chance to avenge his sister. Perez was at a party with 2 other men when Chalino walked up to him and shot him point blank, killing him. Chalino's action led to a shootout, but amidst the chaos, Chalino escaped and fled to LA weeks later. In LA, he worked as a farmer for some time before he moved back to Mexico to work with his brother smuggling immigrants. The business ultimately failed, and his brother was later killed, but Chalino was arrested and sent to jail for 8 months. While in jail, he'd hear the life stories of inmates detailing their lives as drug traffickers and their dealings with the cartel. These are the stories he translated into song lyrics for his corridos. Following his release, he traveled back to LA for work. He hired a band to record his music, then decided to sing the corridos himself. Word of Chalino's music spread like wildfire in the Spanish communities of LA. He'd go on to play live at packed venues in LA, but the shows were often chaotic, usually ending with the police called and damage to the venues. One day, while performing at a quinceanera, all seemed well until a drunk man from the crowd began harassing him. The man then jumped on stage and fired a gun at Chalino. Gunfire was exchanged between both men. 1 man was killed and 10 were wounded. Chalino was wounded and a bystander stopped the drunk man. This incident only increased Chalino's notoriety as a tough guy, and his fan base continued to grow, but it also made him a target of really bad guys. While everyone hailed him as being tough, he realized that any show he played could be his last, as he was receiving different death threats. So naturally, he got his affairs for the worst-case scenario, his death. He sold the rights to his music to a record label, using the money for a down payment on a house for his wife and kids. But he still needed to pay off the rest of the house, so he accepted a gig in Culiacan, Mexico, one of the most dangerous places in Mexico due to the cartel's influence. Everyone around him pleaded with him not to return to Mexico because of the threats, but because he already accepted half payment and spent it, he had no choice. On May 16, 1992, while Chalino was on stage, a fan handed him a note that was believed to be a death threat, as he was seen with a changed countenance and wiping tears off his face. He then continued to sing unbothered, and at the end of the show, he left the venue in his car with his 2 brothers and a cousin. Later on, they were stopped by armed men in Chevrolet Suburbans claiming to be police. One of the men flashed his badge and said to Chalino, "My comandante needs you." Chalino and his brothers tried to offer the men money, since it wasn't uncommon for Mexican police to accept bribes due to the massive corruption, but unfortunately, they refused the offer. Chalino gave himself up to the men and they sped off with him. 12 hours later, 2 farmers stumble across a man in a ditch with rope marks around his wrists and 2 gunshots to the back of the head. It was Chalino Sanchez. That confrontation became the end of Chalino, but it was a different case with 50 Cent. If you are a fan of rap music, you probably know that 50 Cent, one of the most successful and influential artists in the genre, survived a brutal shooting in year 2000 that left him with 9 bullet wounds all over his body, even though some say he was only shot thrice. Well, the most important detail is that he was shot. And the question remains, do you know the real reason why he was targeted and who was behind the attack? You see, Curtis Jackson, who we all know as 50 Cent, grew up in Queens, New York, a place surrounded by drugs and violence. He started selling crack cocaine at the age of 12 and was arrested several times for drug-related offenses. He also developed a passion for rap music and began recording songs under the guidance of Jam Master Jay of Run DMC. In 1999, he was able to sign a deal with Columbia Records and was about to release his debut album, Power of the Dollar. This was what changed 50's life forever. Fast forward to May 24, 2000. 50 was sitting in a car outside his grandmother's house in South Jamaica, Queens, when a black Ford Expedition pulled up next to him. A man got out of the passenger seat and fired 9 shots at him with a 9mm handgun. The bullets hit him in his legs, hands, arms, chest, face, and left cheek. He was rushed to the hospital where he spent 13 days recovering from his injuries. The shooting was widely reported in the media and became part of his legend as a rapper who survived against all odds. Some of us even said he has 9 lives. But one thing remains a mystery. Who was responsible for it, and why did they want him dead? According to court documents that were revealed in 2005, the shooting was ordered by Kenneth McGriff, known as Supreme on the streets. He is a notorious drug lord and leader of the Supreme Team, a violent gang that operates in Queens. McGriff was allegedly angry at 50 Cent for mentioning him in a song called Ghetto Quran, which exposed some of his criminal activities and associates. He felt that 50 Cent had violated the street code of silence and hired a hitman to kill him. The hitman was later identified as Daryl Baum, known as Homo, a close friend of Mike Tyson and a bodyguard for rapper Lil' Kim. Baum shot 50 Cent 9 times and fled the scene, all for a reward he won't enjoy. 3 weeks after the shooting, he was killed in a drive-by shooting in Brooklyn. Some speculated that it was retaliation by 50 Cent's associates, while others suggested that it was ordered by McGriff himself to tie up loose ends. McGriff was eventually arrested and convicted for several murders, including that of Baum. He is currently serving a life sentence without parole in a federal prison. 50 Cent, on the other hand, used the shooting as a motivation to pursue his rap career more seriously. He recovered from his wounds and recorded new songs that caught the attention of Eminem and Dr. Dre, who signed him to their labels. While messing with the bad gangs almost killed 50, there was a plot twist in the case of Jackie Chan. Wait, who doesn't love Jackie Chan? Jackie is an absolute legend. A badass who does all his stunts, except once in a while when he lets his stuntmen stand in for him on scenes where his character is walking or driving, to still give them work and give his battered body a little break from the acrobatics. His insistence on doing his stunts left him with a permanent reminder of how much of a badass he really is. A head injury from a botched stunt attempt on the set of the 1968 film The Armor of God left a hole in his skull the size of a quarter. He often shows it off by inviting people to put a finger in it. Hilarious, yeah? Jackie is funny like that. But as sweet and friendly as he seems, he's not one to be messed with. Although he tries to keep his butt-kicking limited to the screen, if you push Jackie Chan, don't be surprised when he pushes back. That's the lesson one notorious gang found out after its continued harassment of him. So during one trip back to Hong Kong, when over 20 thugs with melon knives surrounded him as he enjoyed a meal on the street, Jackie pushed back. He said in an interview, "I pulled out a gun and had 2 more concealed. I told them they had been going too far." He also claimed to have had 6 grenades just in case the high kicks weren't enough, but did not elaborate on exactly how the tense situation came to an end. Although Jackie got out of the situation unscathed, possession of an unlicensed firearm will get you as many as 14 years in the slammer in Hong Kong. So detectives interviewed him to see how much of his story was true, but they found no hard evidence to back up his claim. The most important thing is that Jackie Chan is still alive and kicking, literally. So we can assume that there's at least some truth to his tale about his tiff with the bad gangs. But while Jackie lived to tell the tale, this next celebrity couldn't. Leslie Ann Pamela Montenegro. She was a journalist, a satirist, and a social media commentator who was also known as Pamela. Suddenly, on February 5, 2018, 2 unidentified men shot her dead in the beachside resort city of Acapulco. The attack took place between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. in A Todos Los Santos, a restaurant that Pamela owned with her husband. The assailants fired at least 2 shots at Pamela's face and abdomen before fleeing. According to reports, the independent cartel of Acapulco killed Leslie Ann Pamela Montenegro because she revealed inside information on drug gangs in her videos. The 36-year-old journalist ran a satirical YouTube channel and an online news magazine called El Sillon, which she founded in 2012. She was more widely known as La Nana Pelucas, meaning the grandma in wigs, and her online persona was featured on her satirical YouTube channel, El Sillon TV. Both as editor of El Sillon and as La Nana Pelucas, Pamela covered local politics in Acapulco and the Guerrero region and frequently mocked local politicians. El Sillon's Facebook page, which Pamela administered with her husband, Samuel Munuzuri, featured a variety of posts in the months before her death, including on topics such as beauty, culture, and politics. According to statements released in 2018, Pamela had received threats in the months before her murder. It is believed that her publications had put her in the view of a local official. The statement did not specify the name of the official or which of Pamela's publications it was referring to. But as it was confirmed that Javi Daniel Cervantes Magno, the alleged leader of a local criminal gang that is active in Acapulco, ordered Pamela's murder, it was clear that she messed with the bad gang. Another celebrity who messed with the bad gangs is Gordon Ramsay. If you know this celebrity chef, you'd know that he isn't known for keeping his cool. The hot-headed star of shows like Hell's Kitchen and Kitchen Nightmares is famous for saying what he thinks with little regard for what anyone thinks. But on a fateful day, during a filming expedition in Costa Rica, maintaining an even head saved him. Ramsay and his film crew were held at gunpoint and soaked with gasoline by angry gangs of fishermen who hoped to stop the group from going public with footage of the area's illicit shark fin trade. Ramsay was filming the segment as part of the British television series The Big Fish Fight, which features top UK chefs advocating for sustainable fishing practices. The episode in question, entitled Gordon Ramsay Shark Bait, calls attention to the estimated 100 million sharks that are killed each year to make shark fin soup, an Asian delicacy. According to Ramsay, just before the attack, he had seen the massive scale of the illegal haul that fishing boats bring in. He mentioned, "These gangs operate from places that are like forts, with barbed wire perimeters and gun towers. At one, I managed to shake off the people who were keeping us away. He ran up some stairs to a rooftop and looked down to see thousands and thousands of fins drying on rooftops as far as the eye could see. When he got back downstairs, they tipped a barrel of petrol over him and his crew. Then cars with blacked-out windows suddenly appeared from nowhere, trying to block them in. Diving into the car, they fled. Ramsay was later allowed on a fishing boat where he saw a large sack of shark fins hidden beneath the ship's hull. Ultimately, he and his crew were advised by the local police to leave the country. They said to them, "If you set one foot in there, they'll shoot you." That's how crazy bad gangs can be. This is Steven Seagal, known for his actions and street credibility in movies. While his career was booming, he got involved with some really bad guys unknowingly. And by messing with the bad guys, he had a near-death experience. If you know a lot about Seagal, you must be able to imagine what his reaction would have been, but I'll tell you. His reaction and the steps he took in dealing with the bad guys, something you'd expect. Before we give you the details, what do you think about the times celebrities have messed with the bad gangs? Let us know in the comment section. Now let's talk about Steven Seagal. There's no doubt that Seagal has the skills to back up his action movie street cred, at least the martial arts parts of his persona. He is a 7th Dan black belt in Aikido who spent his early adult life as a martial arts instructor in Japan before making it big on the silver screen. Though Seagal is known for good career decisions in the martial arts world, he's not really known for making good career decisions in Hollywood. One of Seagal's biggest producers, Julius R. Nasso, helped create a string of action film hits in the early 1990s that kept Seagal's star shining bright. After Seagal's 1992 film Under Siege, which takes place aboard the famed USS Missouri, Seagull was the go-to action movie actor. But it was his relationship with Nasso that would slowly bring down his career. Nasso produced 6 of the Aikido expert's most popular films, including Marked for Death, Fire Down Below, and the sequel to Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. But soon the relationship soured, and Nasso claimed that Seagal broke a $60 million deal for 4 more films. What happened next is something out of one of Seagal's action films. The producer was connected to one of New York's 5 mafia families and called on a Gambino family associate to help straighten out Seagal. Seagal had no idea the mob was out for justice until mobsters forced him into a car in Brooklyn in 2001. He claimed that the mobsters took him to a well-known mob restaurant and threatened him. Seagal didn't break any arms or throw people through windows, as one might expect from his movies. Instead, he handed over at least $700,000. During an investigation into mob activities on New York's waterfront involving Peter Gotti, brother to mafia boss John Gotti and by then the boss of the Gambino family, investigators were able to corroborate Seagal's claims. On federal wiretaps, the FBI heard mob enforcers joking about shaking down Seagal and making references to his movies. Nasso denied the claims that he was a Gambino family associate, telling reporters that all he wanted was the $500,000 that Seagal owed him after reneging on the contract deal. But the FBI reports and wiretaps say otherwise. The mafia involved with Seagal's kidnapping were some of the Gambino family's most notorious capos and street soldiers, including Richard Bondi, Anthony Ciccone, and Primo Casarino. Seagal knew he was on deadly ground when Casarino and Ciccone accompanied Nasso on a visit to Seagal's Los Angeles home. The actor eventually paid Nasso and the mafiosi, and the money was never traced to whomever actually received it, rather than hunt down and kill the Gambino capos and underboss. In revenge for the shaky down, something one of his action movie characters would certainly do, Seagal went to authorities, who used the FBI wiretaps to force a guilty plea from Nasso. In 2003, the former action movie producer was sentenced on extortion and conspiracy charges. He spent a year in prison and was forced to pay a $75,000 fine. Next is Sammy Davis Jr., an American singer, actor, comedian, and dancer. Sammy was not that man who went about looking for trouble. All he did wrong before the bad guys was falling in love. Well, with someone they didn't approve. In 1957, Davis was involved with actress Kim Novak, who was under contract with Columbia Pictures. Because Novak was white, Harry Cohn, the president of Columbia, gave in to his worries that backlash against the relationship could hurt the studio. There are several accounts of what happened, but one that was common is that Davis was threatened by organized crime figures close to Cohn. According to one account, Cohn called racketeer John Rosselli, who was told to inform Davis that he must stop seeing Novak. To try to scare Davis, Rosselli had him kidnapped for a few hours. Another account relates that the threat was conveyed to Davis's father by mobster Mickey Cohen. Davis was threatened with the loss of his other eye or a broken leg if he did not marry a black woman within 2 days. For the fear of losing his body parts, he sought the protection of Chicago mobster Sam Giancana, who said that he could protect him in Chicago and Las Vegas, but not California. To protect himself, he briefly married black dancer Lorraine White in 1958 to protect himself from mob violence. Davis had previously dated White, who was 23 and divorced twice after having a 6-year-old child. He paid her a lump sum, $10,000 or $25,000, to engage in a marriage on the condition that it would be dissolved before the end of the year. But at the wedding, Davis became inebriated and attempted to strangle White en route to their wedding suite. Checking on him later, Davis's assistant Arthur Silver Jr. found Davis with a gun to his head. He cried to Silver, saying, "Why won't they let me live my life?" The couple never lived together and commenced divorce proceedings in September 1958, which was later granted in 1959. Davis lived his whole life staring at the woman he loves wholeheartedly from afar, all because some bad guys won't let him live his life. Yes, Davis has his life to hold, but it was, however, the opposite for Yosi Lot. On April 19, 2018, the body of the 42-year-old Mexican rapper, Yosi Lot, was dumped in an empty lot in the western city of Guadalajara, and on his chest was a note pinned with a screwdriver claiming he had been killed because of a connection to an enemy of the Jalisco New Generation cartel. In a separate case, 3 days later, authorities arrested another local hip-hop star, 24-year-old Christian Palma, known as Cuba, who confessed to dissolving the dead bodies of 3 film students in sulfuric acid on the orders of that same organization. Both artists were pioneers of rap malandro, known as thug rap, a style of hip-hop the Mexican press has cast as the soundtrack to the country's drug war. With performers rapping about meth abuse and massacres, the media blames the music itself for perpetuating gangland violence. However, defenders of the genre argue that rap provides youngsters from poor urban areas with an attractive alternative to drug cartel recruitment. Young people have taken to this music with enthusiasm in Guadalajara, the capital of the state of Jalisco and Mexico's second-largest city. Although Jalisco is better known for tequila and mariachi, Guadalajara's low-income Oblatos sector has become a mecca for the country's hip-hop scene, spawning numerous stars including Yosi Lot and Cuba. The truth is, this type of music makes it easy to get entangled with the bad guys, and when you do, it's going to be really chaotic. Talking about chaos, a typical example is the case of Ruben Ortega, Mexican YouTuber. Ruben Ortega, known as Super Chinelo, was murdered after he was shot several times in Mexico. In the same attack, his wife was seriously wounded, while their 4-year-old son came unharmed, thankfully. This crime occurred amid a wave of violence in the country caused by drug cartels, as well as other homicides that have nothing to do with the struggle between these groups. When the tragic news was confirmed, it caused outrage among the public on social media. The news of Super Chinelo's murder was released on his official Facebook page, where the following message was posted. Unfortunately, everything is true. Our friend and colleague, Ruben Ortega, passed away. Thank you for showing your support. The neighbors had called 911 after hearing a series of gunshots and seeing that Super Chinelo was lying on the ground, just moments after he had gotten out of his vehicle to open the gate to his house. Two suspects stepped in front of him and opened fire practically at point-blank range. When he was alive, Super Chinelo liked to highlight an important part of Mexican culture. He even adopted that name due to his own love for that typical Mexican dance, which originated in Tlayacapan, in the state of Morelos. On his YouTube channel, he conducted interviews with people he met with the sole objective of spreading Mexican traditions to new generations. It is, however, rumored that Chinelo knew too much about the bad guys, and since he has a channel for spreading information and news, the attack was to silence him. It is still unknown what will happen to his case, since those responsible fled the scene, and their identities and whereabouts are unknown, just like the case of Sergio Vega. Sergio Vega, popularly known as El Shaka, was a Mexican musician famous for his songs about drug barons. He was greatly loved by his fans for his craft, but he won't receive the love forever as he has entangled himself with really bad guys. One fateful night while he was driving in his red Cadillac to a concert in Sinaloa State in northwest Mexico, he was shot and murdered. The craziest part of his story is that just hours before the attack, the 40-year-old Mexican singer had publicly denied rumors that he had been murdered. He told the entertainment website La Oreos, "It's happened to me for years now. Someone tells a radio station or a newspaper I've been killed or suffered an accident, and then I have to call my dear mum, who has heart trouble, to reassure her." He then mentioned to the media that he has since increased his security, therefore, no harm can come to him. But his enemies were on a standby, smirking, unknown to El Shaka, he would die soon. According to a passenger's account, shots were fired from the truck at Vega's car. One of the bullets struck and injured El Shaka, rendering him unable to drive. The vehicle crashed, and, as Vega lay clinging to life, the gunman finished Vega off with shots to the head and chest. It appeared Vega's songs, called narco corridos, celebrate the lives of drug barons, and as a result, may have made him a target for rival drug gangs. Although there are clues, police have not apprehended the gunman. It is sad, but this is what happens when anyone messes with the bad gangs. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.